First of all, Wiley, thank you so much for hopping on with us tonight. You've been absolutely crushing it. It has been, I think, 2 years since we've had you on our call. So that's been obviously a lot of new faces, and you were crushing it 2 years ago, and now you're like astronomical growth since then. So first of all, thank you so much. I'm going to kind of just like shut up and let you rip if you don't mind. Like I said, we're kind of honored if you can kind of tell your story and your background with FFL, and then any tips and tricks that you can give us, we're happy to hear them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, and I'm sure you're tired after all the announcements. So, but kudos to your team. And guys, I just want to shout out every single one of you for hopping on here because, it's 8 o'clock Eastern, and I'm sure some of you guys would like to be making dinner, hanging with your families, but obviously you want to get better. So, my goal today is to share the lessons I've learned through the business. And if I can just get one good thing to you that helps grow your business, that's all I'm here for. So, for those of you guys that do not know me, my story is simple. I'm not going to get into it, but I was in college at 20 years old and I was looking for a way out. So, will you guys just throw a one in the chat if you guys went to college real quick? Just kind of curious who my audience is. Awesome. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I felt like college wasn't the best route for me. So I started praying to God and I was like, dude, look, like if you're up there, if you're real, you're going to give me a billboard sign that says, Wiley, do this. And next thing you know, I actually had my buddy walk through the door smiling ear to ear. And I was like, dude, like, gee, like, what's going on? You find the love of your life, man? And he's like, no, dude, I just made $1,000 in an hour. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, are you selling like drugs and stuff? He's like, no, because that's like the world that, I didn't know like sales was really a thing. So I get started in life insurance. I worked for a practice company for 60 days and fell out of that and then vowed to myself I'd never get started in insurance. But I was just at a point where I needed money and then again prayed and was like, look, God, I need you to show me another sign. And he introduced me to Zach Twardowski, who's my mentor. So I got three quick principles. So who in here has been in the business for 6 months? If you guys just want to show some love in the chat, I just always like to have a good idea of like who I'm talking to. Okay, we got Nicole. Awesome. So I'm going to give you some tactical stuff today and just some principles in general. But here's a story for you. So if you guys know Zach Twardowski, he's really out of his shell now. But the first time I ever go down to the office, I walk in and I shake his hand. And I'm a very charismatic guy, I'll let you know up front. And like I love people. Zach does not necessarily love people. So he was like, wouldn't shake my hand like with a stern handshake. He'd look all over the place. And every time I spoke to him, he was like this. Yeah, yep, uh-huh. And he'd have his phone. I'm like, dude, I'm right here, bro. And then I'm like, hey, can I ask you something? He's like, yeah. I said, how much money did you make last month? And he's like, I made, and it was close to six figures. What? Are you kidding me? And then I go in this office with Easton Patton, and Easton's my guy, and I share this story all the time. But he's wearing like a big belt buckle. He's got blue jeans on, boots, the whole nine. I'm like, dude, the guy's probably got a Chevy, some hay. Maybe he's riding like a donkey home, for God's sake. I'm like, dude, he looks like a ranch hand. And I was like, Easton, let me ask you a question. How much money do you make last month? Same thing, like close, like really close. I think he might have made six figures that month. And I was like, okay. I got a guy that's the biggest introvert I ever met, a dude that looks like he belongs on the farm. And maybe I'm very judgmental, and I'm sorry, not really. But I'm like, dude, I'm gonna crush it here. But the biggest thing that I want to get across to you guys today is you can see everybody up on these leaderboards and me. Like, I'm a college dropout. Like, I could go through like my drug addiction, alcohol, and all this nonsense, but like, there's really nothing talented about me. So truly ask your guys the question, like, why not you? At the end of the day, like, why not? All we're doing, guys, is putting sentences together a certain way with a certain tone and pace, and then just doing it over and over and over again. And then it just comes down to schedule.
Your mortgage?
What's up, Chuck? So that's the first thing is why not you? Now, the best lesson that I ever got is if you guys are not in the position that you want to be, in 90 days, your whole entire life can change if you do these certain things. So Easton Patton had one of the hardest starts, and he's like, dude, if you do this, just commit as hard as you humanly can for 90 days and go down and write a list. And guys, I would challenge you all on this call today to go through the list of what you want and what you're willing to sacrifice. Because you're going to have to remove things from your life to fill them with what you want. Very simple equation. Remove the things you want, what you want to sacrifice for the things you want to get. So after 90 days, I'm going to be upfront with all of you, and three things are going to happen. One, you're going to change your situation and you're going to be absolutely crushing it. Love the business. Keep on going. That's what I hope for each and every single one of you. Number two, you're slowly going to be climbing up that, that ladder, and you're going to see your progress. You're going to keep going. Or let's be upfront, guys. After 90 days, you did everything humanly possible. And this is if you truly did. And maybe you're not in the position you're in. Maybe you don't love working here, but at least you gave it an honest shot because you owe it to yourself, because this is the best opportunity in America to see what you're made of, because this system works, but you got to figure it out for you. So figure out that 90-day sprint. Now, the third thing, and I will be speaking very fast today because I have a lot of things that I want to give to you guys today, is this simple equation. So this business is built on three simple principles: lead flow, presentations, and closes. So I want you all to go through your business, and this is where you're going to figure out your problems. So for example, like Marissa, if somebody calls me and they're like, I'm only doing 10, families a month or whatever it is, this is the equation I run every single time. I'm like, let's figure out how many leads you spend a week on, how many presentations you're getting, so pickups, and then are you closing? So if somebody has good lead flow, they get a lot of presentations, we call it 30 presentations a week, but they only close 5. That's not bad, but we could bump that number up. So now I know where to focus on. And so this is where you guys can have a discernment and a, good eye in terms of where are you going to focus your efforts, because teaching somebody how to close in this business is a couple small tweaks. Now, if they're not buying enough leads, they're not getting enough presentations, that's the start of the equation. So this is going to be good for managers and yourself as a new agent to figure out, where is my problem? If you're not getting enough presentations, it's because you're not working that hard. Okay. So again, lead flow, presentations, closing. Now, really early on, I was 20 years old and I'm still a complete mess. I want you guys to know that up front. But one of the lessons I wish I knew was, when you guys start, having revenue come in, you have to treat this like a restaurant. Every single week, you need to have new inventory, because this is going to be your golden goose that continues to lay golden eggs. So what I mean by that, guys, is I need you to pay your business first, because it's the 24th, but let's say it's the 5th of the month. Don't be too concerned about your mortgage next month. I know it's coming, right? But invest in leads, get your ROI on that, invest in leads again, boom, get a bigger ROI on that. And then by the time you got your mortgage covered for the next 3 months. So this was my biggest thing, because I would always squirrel my money away because I was living in fear, but God did not give us the spirit of fear. I want to be really clear on that. So you don't want to be living in fear or make any decisions in fear, but be sure to pay your business first. Okay. So this is going to be all in regards to, people that are new. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is finding a good mentor. So the two people I know on here is obviously Marissa and then Desiree. So these two are phenomenal. I have relationships with both of them, great mentors. I'm sure there's tons of people in this agency. Unfortunately, I do not know. I can't see everybody right now. But what I really want to get across today is this metaphor analogy. I always get confused between the two of them. I mean, honestly, like someone tell me.
That's why we sell insurance, Wylie. That's why we sell insurance.
Like, dude, I sucked in English class. Like the yours, like typing your, thank God there's autocorrect. It's a nightmare for me. But to be upfront, so it's like the rudder of a ship, right? If you turn the rudder like this, you land in a completely different direction. Like your destination is going to be completely different. It's the same thing in sales, folks. If you're saying just like one or two things off, it completely changes your presentation and the ability for you to close. So early on, if you guys aren't closing at the clip that you want to, go back to that equation, but really get with the mentor every single day and ask them, hey, I just got done. Like, for example, I'm going to use Desiree. I'd be like, Desiree, I just got done with this call. And they said they wanted to shop around. Like, dude, I haven't got, what's going on? And Desiree's going to go, well, did you say this in the beginning and set the expectation that we're brokers and we're a one-stop shop? We're like, no. She'll be like, okay, I just need you to add this and this. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, cool. So now you're in front of the objection. All right. So find a good mentor, somebody that you relate to, somebody that kind of speaks the same way that you do, and always get course corrected. Because the whole time our rudder is going to be here, right back to normal, here, right back to normal. Within a certain time frame, you're going to understand all the different scenarios that these clients are going to be giving you, and then you're going to get better. You're going to feel strong and convicted in what you do and your ability to sell and help families. So that's that. Now, the next thing, and sorry, I'm going to be a little winded here. I don't know how Marissa did it for 16 minutes straight. So kudos. But the next thing, guys, is regarding objections. All objections are taken care of up front. Okay. So I'm not going to go down the whole entire list, but I'll go through a couple of them with you. So who struggles with getting Social Security and banking account? Anybody. I mean, if you guys are perfect, don't say anything in the chat. Like, I'm just looking for some love right there. Boom. Awesome. I still struggle with it. All right, Ryan, Christina, I appreciate the honesty. So this is what I do when I present numbers and how to get in front of this. So when it comes to Social Security and objections, I like to tie it to something relatable. So if I'm like, hey, Christina, so before we get into this application, it's really similar to like applying for a car. They're just going to need some basic information like name, address, phone number, social to verify health, state you were born in, da da da. Okay. Then we're going to get you pre-approved. What that means for you is it's great news. We're like 80% to the finish line. That means we just locked in that rate. Then after we do that, we're going to put down your beneficiaries, the method of payment that we're going to put on file, because obviously you're not going to scratch my back for me every single month for this. I make like a small joke, like, dude, of course we're putting down some bank account. Like, come on, we're adults here. And then after that, I'm going to be sending the policy to via email or directly to your house. Do you want it at your house or email? And then I'll ask them that right away, because then I'm already assumed the close. I've already assumed that I got them all the way there. So I preface all of this information before I need it. And so this is going to be, this was major for my business. I hope it helps you guys today, just to get in front of social and banking. Now,
And
like I
Wylie,
said, go ahead.
real quick, just how important is your tone with that? So I know like when I first started a new agent, my biggest thing was not necessarily what I was saying, but I was very like timid to say it. How did you develop like the confidence to say what you need to say?
Yeah, so I think the best thing I can say regarding that question is meet people exactly where they're at. So if somebody talks slow and timid, like an older, 74-year-old lady, I'm going to speak slow and timid like I'm talking to my grandma. If someone's like a hardcore construction worker, I'm going to raise my chest, raise my voice. I'm going to speak to him exactly how he's speaking to me. So in terms of tone and pace, I think that's the best framework to be focused on, is just meet those people exactly where they're at and then keep that tone. When you slow down and you speak slowly, that's when people listen to you more. So if you need someone to hear you, you're going to slow down, you're going to speak a little bit slower, and then they lean in, right? Okay. So that great question, Marissa. That's what I would say about tone and just meeting people with where they're at. Now, let me turn on the lights right here because it looks like the Dark Knight Rises in my room.
Guys, make sure you're taking notes too. We obviously have this on recording, but one of the things for me is whenever we have a big call like this, it's like I'm trying to keep those nuggets. So I'm always scribbling, like I want to remember specific things that Wylie said so I can implement them in my presentation like tomorrow. So note takers are moneymaker, guys.
Note takers are money makers. All right. Now, we gave you some tactical stuff, some good principles. The biggest thing, guys, is, and everybody talks about it all the time, but it's going to be schedule and consistency. So, we hire whatever, 40 to 50 people every single week. And I have a lot of people ask me, like, what's the biggest difference maker between the top guys and the people that are doing okay? I'm like, dude, honestly, they just treat it like a normal job. Like they work Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock till 7. And like, it's just a non-negotiable for them. Like if you guys were clocking in, had to be there at 9 with a corporate America job, like you'd be there at 9, right? I'm pretty sure all of us would. We don't want to get fired. Same thing here, except we can't fire ourselves. But the biggest thing as a producer, it comes down to schedule and consistency. And then also just maintain a good pace because I was really bad at this early on. I worked Monday through Sunday. I wanted to figure this thing out. I was horrible in the beginning and I had no like pockets of pretty much like relief or I could rejuvenate myself. So it still is important to have these, I call them watering holes, where you go and you see your family, you have a date night scheduled, you have, a men's basketball league that you're in, like anything you truly do enjoy scheduled in to recharge you. But again, I want to harp on schedule and consistency. That is like the name of the game in this business. So this was all for, newer agents, but I think everybody can take some insights on this. Now, for everybody that's still listening, who wants to build a business? Like who has aspirations to build a team? Awesome. Cool. So this is for you guys. So let's talk about why you want to build a business. I'm going to share a quick story. Actually, I'll start with this. So there's two reasons why you should build. Number one, I'll start with the story. So my one of my best friends' name is Chris, and me and Chris, funny story. So I was playing like flag football in fourth grade, like out at Resource, and I was like down step blue 40. I was hiking the ball, and all of a sudden I hear like bah, 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 and this kid just kicks me, right. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, who just does that? Who just kicks some guy with? And then me and him meet in the principal's office. And I don't know how we become friends, but we've been like best buddies ever since. And so Chris's first ever memory is him getting, it's a coyote and they transport you across the border, but that's his first ever memory. Like his first language is Spanish. And I'm going to lead up and this is all going to make a ton of sense why, but we go to college together. We both partied really hard and then we both looked at each other and be like, dude, I can't live this lifestyle. Neither can you. Let's part ways for now because we're bad influences on each other. And about 18 months goes by, I get a call from Chris. He goes, dude, like I've been seeing what you're doing in the sales life insurance space. Like I need a job. I'm like, Chris, like I'm not hiring you, bro. Like there's no way. He's like, dude, I have to have a job. And I just kept putting him off because I was like, he's not going to be good here. Kept putting him off. Long story short, Chris comes in. What he tells me is like, dude, Michelle's about to have a kid. I'm barely able to pay my bills right now. If I don't fix something, dude, I cannot raise this kid to the extent that I want. And I was like, you got it. Let's do it. Let's figure this thing out. So Chris took a full year to truly figure this thing out. He had a ton of anxiety. He had a very low self-image of himself, and it took him a long time to develop the character traits and self-image that he needed to have to grow into the person he is today. Now he protects between 30 to 40 family. He has 2 kids, provides for the whole, family. It's amazing. It truly is. And so this was a big testimony for me that one, anybody can do this if they put in the effort, and 2, the impact that you can have on people's lives. Because now we have an army of men and women, including Marissa's group, my group, across the whole board with Family First Life, and we can go through the testimonies. But that's really the juice. Now, let's talk a little selfishly, because let's be honest, guys, when you have a team, you do make money, right? So if you had 5 people and you taught them all how to produce 20,000, your group is doing 100,000. If you have 10% spread for being a good leader, a good mentor, showing up on a daily basis and providing the opportunity to them, you're going to be making roughly like 8,000 after everything's said and done with overrides. Guys, will $8,000 a month cover all your basic bills? Desiree, she's shaking her head for the most part. Like, yeah, like, dude, 8K, like, unless you got like 6 kids, it's like cheaper by the dozen over here. You might need a couple more people. But in all seriousness, folks, I thought about it like that. Like, how could I get my mom's bills, my bills, my lead expense covered and provide value to these people? So that's the first thing. Why build? I hope that cements in your guys' heart. Now, the second thing is going to be, how do you actually present this opportunity? So the lady, and Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, she was the one that helped 43 families in a weekend, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is phenomenal. Maria, if you're on here, I'm seriously super, super proud of you. I'm definitely rooting for you. I can't wait to see what you accomplish here and everybody else on this call, but that is phenomenal. So if you guys want to present this, think about go through your phone and however many contacts you have, scroll through and write down a name of 5 people that you think have the attributes to make it here. What are the attributes you're looking for? Mine are pretty simple. I like people that have a very strong work ethic, that are self-accountable, and they're easy to be coached. So like, they don't have egos essentially. And you can add, a couple like fearless and gratitude, whatever your attributes are. But those are kind of what I look for. So I'll think in my head, who are the people in my contact list that I think would be a good fit? Then you want to call them. And guys, when I did this at first, it was super weird. So I would like be like, dude, like I'm making all this money like that. And all my buddies are like, Wiley's crazy. Like we're not going to go and work with Wylie. Like he's crazy. We already know his past. Like we're not doing it. So what I learned is this is how you present it to your warm market. If I'm talking to Marissa and call her, I'd be like, hey, Marissa, how are you? She's like, good. I'd be like, hey, I want to be upfront with you. I'm calling because I just found the life insurance sales. And look, I know it doesn't sound sexy, but this last weekend, I just got these leads, which is just warm, interested prospects. I sat in front of a script. I made like 300 phone calls and I ended up closing 2 people and my commission was 2,400. And I'll get paid that on Tuesday. Dude, it was crazy because I worked 8 hours and made 2,400. I know you're, super coachable. You have a great work ethic, whatever. Are you still happy with where you're at working at that hotel? No,
No.
no. But guys, that is the best way for a new person to present this is going to be very simple, very honest. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing that I want to give you, if you guys were in Vegas, it was actually my topic was called a 90-second pitch. But anytime you get introduced to somebody new in your life, if it's valet, the Uber driver, someone you're sitting next to on the airplane, a friend of a friend you just met at a barbecue, what's like the first thing people ask you? What do you do for work?
What do you do for work?
What do you do for work? I used to respond with one of 3 things. I'm in sales, financial services, or I run a life insurance agency. None of those sound sexy. Like if I could say I was a fireman, that'd be great. But I was like, no, like I have the coolest job ever. Like seriously, like I want to share this with y'all, right? And so how can we get that message across? So Marissa, I'm going to go through mine if you just want to ask me what I do, and then I'm going to walk you guys through how to build yours.
All right, Wylie, what do you do for work?
Marissa, look, so can I be upfront with you?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. I got the best job ever. So growing up, my parents were split up, divorced. I spent a week with my mom, a week with my dad. Mom worked her tail off in the 9 to 5, bounced around a lot. Dad ran his own company. So me and my mama, when I was with her, we weren't like broke, but like we experienced some hardships. But then when I was with my dad, we could like go out to eat and, kind of enjoy life. So really early on, I thought business would be a good route. But honestly, Marissa, kind of like you, I went to college thinking it was going to be the best thing. And then my buddy walked through the door and he told me about life insurance sales. And I thought to myself, God, like that sounds lame. But he started breaking it down. And long story short, he told me that there's people already asking me for the product, that it takes about an hour to get a sale done, and the average sale pays $1,000. So I was thinking to myself, well, gosh, if they ask for it and it only takes an hour, dude, might as well give this thing a go. And guys, what happened, Marissa, what happened was I started making 2 sales a week, $8,000 a month. Then I scaled that to 12, and then boom. And so Marissa, for you, I don't know what you do. Remind me what you do again. And then they'll say blank. And I'm like, cool. Are you happy with where you're at?
Well, not after you said that, Wylie.
No. And then what happens, you guys, you plant a seed with them. So the biggest thing in regards to 90-second pitch, and I do want to give you like how to build it. So first you have to have a strong hook. So your hook can be something super simple, like I have the best job ever. And guys, what I just went through, like I do this day in and day out. So like if do not compare what I just said to what you guys are going to say, because when Mike did this with me at first, I was like red in the face and I was like, I can't even speak English anymore. I'm like, dude, like, what's going on? So but have a strong hook. Like, I have the best job ever. Then share your story within like 45 seconds. And what I really want you to focus on is be open and vulnerable, because too many people I've seen in business are at a very high mark or have big accolades, and they carry themselves like they're this know-it-all. Dude, no one cares. Like, honestly, like, no one cares. Like, you want to be relatable, because when you're vulnerable and open, people can see hope and they can see their path inside of yours, that you're maybe 5 steps ahead of them. So share your story. So if it's for Desiree or Marissa, or like, I don't know everyone's story on here, but like, if you're, let's just say, a single mom and you've always tried to have a new business, but it was hard to get started, like, share that struggle, and then how Family First Life filled that void. Then, so that's part one. Part two, open and vulnerable. Part three is share about FFL. So when I shared about it, it was leads, 1 hour of, it takes 1 hour to make a sale, and then how much you make, and then your result. Hey, I made 8K. Don't throw out crazy numbers like 43K in a week, and no one on God's green earth is going to believe that unless you're in the business. Like, I would just be upfront. Like, yeah, Maria, don't be telling people you make 40K in a weekend, okay? But then from there, you want to have a strong close. Like, at the end of the day, guys, like, we are salespeople. I'm very proud to say that. Like, all day we're closing. So are you comfortable with where you're at? What do you do for work? Like, whatever is natural to you. Then it starts planting a seed. It engages in a conversation, and now you're going back and forth with this person. And what's going to happen is you guys will see, if they're interested, they'll start asking you questions. If they're not, so be it. Maybe that seed grows later when you develop a relationship, after the barbecue with your buddies or whatever. So that's the 90-second pitch.
I love that, Wylie. I love that, Wylie, because it does create a conversational feel, as opposed to, like, I've done so much when you said, like, oh, what do people do? I'm like, oh, I'm in life insurance sales, or, oh, I have a life insurance agency. And then it's like, that's the end of the sentence. So like, where do you go from there? It's like, oh, cool, dude.
Yeah,
So I think that is cool what you do with that, because then people are it's open-ended. And then depending on where the conversation is gonna go, it's not just like, oh, life insurance sales. Okay, bye.
Yeah, like, peace. And that's what happens, like, tell me not, like, all the time.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an uncomfortable practice when you're starting out doing this. But guys, when you're uncomfortable, that means you're growing, you know. So you want to put yourself in not uncomfortable situations, but just know, like, when things are uncomfortable, that typically means you're growing. So just to go on a little bit more, and Marissa, when do you want to wrap this thing up at 9?
Whenever you're done, Wylie, we're
Okay.
good. We're
Okay.
soaking it in, so we're not in a rush.
All right, sweet. So, well, the next thing, guys, is going to be social proof. So I love what you're doing, Marissa, with the highlighted post every single week. But I want to talk to you guys about social media. So social media is your best friend. Now, a couple frameworks around it. Most of you on here, including myself, are scared to post about your wins because you care about what people think about you. And let me tell you, my whole personality type is being liked at the end of the day. So I hear all your guys' problems. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. My mom is fostering 5 cats, and I think they all just broke out of my house. So I see her running around the front yard. That's hysterical. That's great. God, I should flip the camera around. Never mind. But let's get back to business, folks. So all comes back to social proof. Guys, what I need you to understand is think about all the followers that you have and ask yourself the question, who do you see on a weekly basis? And I guarantee you're going to name 5 to 10 people, if that. Like Marissa, like, dude, who do I see on a weekly basis? It's my mom, a couple of my agents, and like, that's honestly it, unless I'm at a convention. So I always thought to myself, well, people judge us no matter what. Regardless if we're winning or losing, they're going to judge. So I might as well shout this thing from the rooftop for the right people, because they're going to judge me regardless. So that first framework you guys have to understand is social media is not like keeping up with the Kardashians and making your life look like a highlight reel. It's just being raw, authentic, sharing your wins. Now, the biggest thing, guys, is when it's just you starting out, Share your wins, post the picture of the application, break down the numbers, but be very clear on, hey, I worked 8 hours, I dialed 300 leads, I closed a deal for $96 a month. My commission's 96 times 12. Boom, do the math. Like, give them an honest expectation, because if you're like, work this weekend, made 8K, FFL's the best, like people are gonna be like, what? Like, what? Like, dude, what the heck is this? Like, this sounds crazy. So then after that, you want to start sharing everybody else's wins. So like if CC, Ryan, Christina, Chuck, Desiree are all crushing it, and like you see them closing, like all I do on a daily basis on Zoom is I'll take a quick video. I'm like, Max, boom, valet to make your putting up 22, and I'll break it all down. And then Max will see himself, all our other managers will post it, and then he'll repost it. Because then you have a recognition machine. You build him up for the right behaviors, and then he starts sharing himself. So the last thing regarding social media is the best equation I have for you, but it's just consistency equals credibility. My number one leg is named Mahmoud Nasser. Mahmoud and me have known each other since I was 17. And I won't go into the full story. I always knew he was going to be a stud here, but he met me at the worst time in my life when I was a hooligan. So it took me a long time to convince this kid, but I would post constantly. I would call him once a month and ask him how the car lot's going when he was doing, car sales. I'd send him my deposits and I'd be like, dude, say hi to, Nadal and Hatham, like his brother and his dad. And then I'd send him the deposits. But it took me 18 months of nonstop posting for him to come over. Then from there, Mahmoud's biggest leg, Ronnie's on this call. Shout out Ronnie. Took a whole year of watching Mahmoud to finally make the move. So guys, your biggest player is not coming on month 1 or month 2. And maybe they are. I don't know. Don't hold me accountable for that. I hope they do. But the real ones are going to take time to come. If you start posting for 60 days and then stop for another 90, like, dude, they're just going to think you're just like up and down. Like, there's no credibility there. So just be very aware of like staying consistent. If it's 1 post a day or 3 posts a week, like just have a habit around it. So that's that. Now, let me talk to you guys a little bit about interviewing, because I think this is a subject that nobody actually talks about. But I want to teach you guys how to properly, interview people and kind of what our process looks like. So, and then I'm going to wrap it up so we have some Q&A and stuff. But let me ask you guys a question. For everybody that's hired, people on here, like what's the percentage of people you've hired that actually come through and write business? It's low.
I feel like it's got to be like less than 20, 20?
It's low. I don't know the number, but like all
Low.
I know is it's not great. And so I was like, you know what? We're gonna change this. So it was not, when was it? Not last year, the year before, we were number 2 for contracted people, essentially from hired to paid. We were number 2 in all Family First Life. And I do take pride in this. So why don't people work here? Like, why don't people work here if they know they're going to make 15, 20, whatever the number is? Like, why don't they? It's because of a lack of belief. So, for example, if I'm talking to Marissa and Desiree and I'm like, hey, ladies, I got $1 million in cash. I have a briefcase. I open it up. I'm like, here, have some fun. You guys are like doing whatever you want. You can feel it, taste it. You see the money. You know it's real. But I'm like, hey, I close the briefcase. I'm like, no, give me back my mill. What I need from y'all is I'm going to give you this money in 30 days. But what I need from y'all is to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I need you to work out once a day. You cannot drink alcohol, use any type of nicotine, none of that. If you can do that, you will get the $1 million. So let me frame this all together. The reason I'm saying this is because, guys, you need to make the reward so high that obstacles don't matter. So the obstacles in our business is licensing, contracting, and going through the nose. That's our obstacles. But first, it's the licensing and contracting, right? If you can get someone's belief to a point where they know without a shadow of a doubt that Marissa is the mentor to be the one that shows them how to make 15 or 20 or whatever the number is, but they know without a shadow of a doubt that she's going to be able to do that. And the system that FFL provided will do it. Dude, they're going to get through licensing in 2 days. They're going to get through contracting in 3 hours. Like, trust me. Like, when we hire somebody, I haven't seen anyone take longer than 10 days as long as we do this process thoroughly. So, what's the actual process? We call our 3-step interview. So, I'm going to break it down. Let me just pull it up on my notes so I don't miss anything. And thank you guys for bearing with me. All right. So, this is our 3-step interview. Interview number 1 is figure out the prospect's situation. And Marissa, I'm just going to send this to you.
Yeah, thanks, Wylie.
Yeah, I got you, so you can send it out. So interview number 1 is figure out the person's situation, figure out what their pain points are, and then fill their pain points with FFL system. For example, my buddy, who I just hired about a month ago, he worked in, oh God, what was he? Oh, he's actually a hotel manager. He was making decent money. His hours were not flexible at all. And that's what he always kept bringing up in our first conversation. He was just about to get married. You know, they want to have kids. And so he's like, dude, like, I have to work holidays. I cannot take Fridays off. Like when my girl has, you know, Fridays off. Like, dude, I just don't like that. So I'm obviously going to explain FFL, but really what I'm going to be pushing on is like, dude, that ability of freedom. Like, dude, when you work Monday through Thursday, bro, you can take Fridays off and go and spend time with your girlfriend or fiance at the time and like enjoy that. And he's like, that was it. Like, that's like honestly what sold him. So that's interview number 1. Again, that's going to be the prospects paying their situation and then filling the void with FFL. All right. Now, interview number 2 is by far the most important one. This is where you're going to get third-party validation set up. So if somebody, for him, Blake, who was working at a hotel, I'm going to find somebody in my agency that was in the hospitality that's having some decent success. I'm going to be like, hey, dude, this is my buddy Blake. I need you to get on the phone with him and just share your story. On this call, there's going to be 2 things that happen. I want to give him a true expectation. So if my guy went from 6K to 12K to 18K, and that's how long it took him, I want him to break down, here's how many hours he worked every single week. Here's how many leads he bought. Here's what his dial days looked like. Here was his progression in money. But what's going to happen is Blake's going to obviously hear my success, and then he's going to hear it from somebody that's newer that was in the exact same position as him. And then we give him real expectations. So that's interview number 2. Now, the last interview number 3, pretty simple. You got to figure out what are their goals, dreams, essentially, and sell them on how quickly, you know, they can get there. So, for example, I'll ask them, I'll be like, hey, Desiree, you know, what are your goals? Like, if I decide to work with you and you decide to work with me in a year from now, what would you like to achieve? And let's just say Desiree goes, well, I want financial freedom, because that's what everybody says. I'm like, okay, God only knows what that means. Like, give me a number, like, and I'll get a number out of them. They're like, I want to make 180K a year. I want to make 240K a year. I'm like, great. What is that a month? Well, 240K, that's 20K a month, Wylie. Okay, cool. What is that a week? Well, Wylie, that's 5K a week. Awesome. What is that a day? That's $1,000 a day. Okay. So you need to make $1,000 a day then. Yeah. You think you can do it? I don't know. All right, cool. Well, let's map this out. So if you want to make $1,000 a day, you're going to need to buy X amount in leads a week. You're going to need to work X amount of hours, and you need to get 6 to 8 presentations every single day. Because if you can get 6 to 8 presentations, you're going to close 1 deal. Okay, I got it. Now, Desiree, let me ask you something. I've never seen anybody in my whole entire life take longer than 2 weeks to get their license. It's a 20-hour course. Do you feel like you need any longer than 2 weeks to get your license? No, I'll do it in 5 days. Can I hold you accountable to that? Yeah, you can. Cool. Now you have an expectation of how quickly they get their license. You already have their goals that they told you mapped out and you have a blueprint on how to get there. So those are going to be the 3 interviews. Now, the last thing, and then I'm going to be done, is this. Everybody can talk a good game, but actions speak louder than words. And I know you guys have heard this, but I really need you to understand this. Speed wins tenfolds in business. What I mean by that, give people small tasks and see if they're accountable to them. And this is in every walk in business. But when you're hiring specifically, because that's the topic that we're on, is I send a video after every call and I'll be like, dude, this video reminds me a lot of you. Please watch it, take some notes, come ready with questions on call number 2. After call number 2, well, right away on call number 2, I'll go, hey, dude, what'd you think of that video? Right away, I'm going to know if they watched it or not. And then I'm like, dude, if they can't watch a 20-minute video about how Desiree crushed it and here's her story and here's how she dials and what lead type, whatever the video is, how am I ever going to expect them to be an independent business owner, 1099 contractor? Because, guys, the headache is I'm bringing all these people in, they never do anything. I'm like, dude, yeah, 'cause you're not bringing in the right people, bro. Like, you can't bring in the dude that works at 7-Eleven that's never held a job longer than 6 months. Like, let's just be honest. Like, it's okay to be honest in this world nowadays. Like, people are too soft. Anyway, it's a whole nother subject. But in all seriousness, if you're a manager, if you're just hiring in general, give people small tasks, see if they're accountable to them, and then that's who you know how to pour your efforts into people. So that's pretty much all I got.
Wylie, that was phenomenal. That wasn't like pretty much all you got. That was great. That was really amazing. And I'm really grateful that you did that because, and I'm going to just say this is probably the best call we've had in a long time. Because a lot of times, Wylie, when people get, and you've seen it, when people get training opportunities, it's a lot of stories. This was so much like 1, 2, 3, take this, implement this, say this. And I think that's what we really needed. And I think that was beyond phenomenal. And it's just crazy to see how much you've grown, how much you're killing it. And, we're just excited to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. And then, I mean, I know what it's like to be in every single one of your guys' shoes. And, it is tough. Like, business is hard, but hard is good. And I just hope you guys get something out of it. So,
well, we love it. And thank you so much, Wylie. Again, I cannot say enough about it. So, guys, I will see you in 2 weeks, but I will see you even sooner back on the dial room, guys. If you are on the West Coast, we still have plenty of dial time. And if not, we're up all day tomorrow. So let's crush it, guys. I'm proud of you. Wylie, thanks again. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.